The love song. It's titled Zwagazi. It's essentially a story about two lovebirds who are women and who have loved and who continue to love each other regardless of what society has to say. So I present to you Zwagazi.
Hey Zwagazi, amehlo amabone wena. Hey Zwagazi, nhliziyo yami ithande wena. Hey Zwagazi, ubuhle bakho buyizena. Hey Zwagazi, uncumo lwakho lundiqebele. Nobiliso lonke ligxeka uthando lwethu. Nobumhlaba wonke ungavumi sithandane. Noma abantu bonke bangasizonda, ndizohlala ndikuthanda mna. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Hey Zwagazi, ndinika ithuba ndithande wena. Hey Zwagazi, ndinika ithuba ndipholise amanxeba. Hey Zwagazi, ndinika ithuba ndikubambe isandla sakho, ndikuqabule bunzi, ndikuhlabela amazwi othando. Hey Zwagazi, ndinika ithuba ndithande wena. Hey Zwagazi, ndinika ithuba ndipholise amanxeba. Hey Zwagazi, ndinika ithuba ndikubambe isandla sakho, ndikuqabule bunzi, ndikuhlabela amazwi othando. Nobilizwe lonke ligxeka uthando lwethu. Nobumhlaba wonke ungavumi sithandane. Noma abantu bonke bangasizonda, ndizohlala ndikuthanda mna. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami, zokuphila kwami. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Hey, 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 hey. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami, zokuphila kwami. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Hey, nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Sa-da-da-dum-da-dum-ba, sa-da-dum-ba, ba-da-da-dum-da-dum-ba-da. Sa-da, nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Hey, hey, hey. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Nobilizwe lonke ligxeka uthando lwethu. Nobumhlaba wonke ungavumi sithandane. Noma abantu bonke bangasizonda, ndizohlala ndikuthanda mna. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami, zokuphila kwami. Nsuku zonke zokuphila kwami. Hey, 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 hey.
Okay. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to On the Sofa with Esther, South Africa. I've added that onto the end. And today with me, I've got an incredible individual called Bonga Kwana. Bonga Kwana. Um, there's so many things that Bonga does. It's very expansive, it's very expressive, and it's very inspirational. So we're going to hear a little bit more today about this particular journey. So good day, Bonga, or good afternoon. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. I usually say to my guests, who is Bonga in a nutshell, in a peanut shell, or a coconut shell?
I'll go with the coconut shell. I am Bonga Kwana. I am a singer-songwriter. I'm a multifaceted creative artist. I do a whole lot of things and I try to juggle a whole lot of things within creativity. I'm hyper creative. I am starting an independent media company which is queer centric. So yeah, I do a whole lot of things. I'm very immersed in the music scene. I'm very creative and absolutely just love doing everything from music to just putting stuff together for queer people, creating community events and all of these things. So I'm usually all over the place. So it's quite a coconut shell, and I hope I kind of wrapped myself up nicely there.
Wonderful. And it's interesting because, with creativity, I know that in the UK, sometimes people have tried to put me in a box, and my friends say, you can't put her in the box with that creativity. And sometimes people have said to me, oh, you do that as well? Well, yeah, and I haven't even started yet because creativity is constantly evolving, constantly expanding. And, you can have one idea, and then from that idea, you've got all these different ideas around it. And so, when I watch you, you're a musician, you're into fashion, you're into music, you're an activist as well. You're so many things, but the central message, what is your central message for all the things that you do? What is your central message, your key message?
If there's one thing I could say is my key message, it's definitely love. I believe that love is endless. Love is the reason why we're here. Love is the reason why we do the things we do. We fight the battles that we fight. Love is the reason why we grieve, why we smile, why we are alive, basically. And for me, I feel like love is boundless. So in all of this, in all of the music that I create and everything that I create, I lead first with love, because I'm a child born of love. So that's the language that I love speaking. And that's essentially the message that I always carry in everything that I do, be it music or any other project that I'm involved in. I lead with love.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, because also as part of your journey, you are the founder and creative director of Ramblings of a Black Queer. Now, how do I pronounce that? Is that woman?
Just woman.
How do I get the X in there? Woman, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about that journey, because I would surmise, and you can put me right if I'm wrong, that part of your journey, as a queer person, if I may say that, the importance of love is so important, because it's about acceptance. It's about, reaching out into those places where people might not want to see, but it's there in front of you. And so just share a little bit more about that journey further into and through love because of who you are.
Yeah. Okay. So when I created Ramblings, I created it because I needed an outlet. I was well on my way out of varsity. I told myself, I'm not going to do another year of varsity, so I'm just going to work solely on music. I stopped going to class and I was just going to everything to do with music and wherever I could entertain people. So out of that came this idea to just create a space in where I guess I could express myself without feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong space. And I knew that a space like Ramblings did not exist, especially for queer Black people who are just trying to figure themselves out. And at the time, I think I was about 18 or 19 when I started doing Ramblings. So when it began as just a platform I created to share my poetry, to share my music. And I invited a few friends to just hop on and sing along or do whatever, do an act. And from there, when I did the first event with Ramblings in varsity, it was packed. People actually came out to see it. So I thought, oh my gosh, there is a space for this and people are looking for what I'm giving. And then it soon evolved into a space in where I started inviting other people to come on and hop on a conversation where we can actually talk about the things that pertain to us as a queer community, because we attend a whole lot of events that, even though they're great, they're nice, there's a great energy, but they don't really speak to us as a tree. Then let's introduce these conversations that we can kind of hold each other with and hold each other accountable for the things that we are and are not doing to and for each other as a queer community. So Ramblings has essentially just become a very entertaining activist space, essentially. And that's where the concept of creating a queer media company comes through, because we actually want to be able to continue telling these stories, continue having these conversations on much bigger platforms than just these solo events that I host now and then. So that's the essence with with Ramblings, basically a space in where we can feel like we belong and we're safe enough to discuss the things that we wouldn't be able to discuss in normal or typical spaces that don't necessarily cater to us as a people.
Excellent, excellent. And you're also an entrepreneur. I mean, you're so many things. You're an entrepreneur. You're a model. And when you model, what's the place that you go into when you model? Because I know for some models, it's just literally this really anal thing of walking up the catwalk. But then for me, modeling also is about expression. It's about it's a soul thing. It's much more than that. So what is it to you? Because I just get a sense, I'm just feeling this because I'm a very feely person. I just get a sense that even with the modeling, it's a message, it's a language of who you are.
Yes, no, for sure. I guess where I tap into is myself. And right now I'm with an agency and I haven't done much work with the agency, surprisingly enough. But what I have done is work with other people and independent organizations and groups and projects. And that for me has really enabled me to tap into this vulnerable side of myself that I don't otherwise show unless I'm on stage. So I don't know, I guess I kind of tap into that as if I'm performing bare as I do on stage, and I take upon that role and I take upon that space mentally. I do a lot of meditating, so that also kind of helps. So I just try to center myself with the things that matter in that time.
Okay, but do you say you do a lot of meditating?
Yes, I do meditate. Yes.
Okay. So I'm curious though. You talk about this vulnerable side. What is the vulnerable side, Bongo? Bonga, apologies. What is that vulnerable side? Who is she? How does she feel in that space? If you don't mind me, I sometimes go a bit deep.
No, that's all right. I actually appreciate that. Actually the vulnerability, I could say, is one of my strongest sides, because it's the part of me that doesn't really come out the most unless I'm doing what I absolutely love, which gives me so much. It's when I give into what I'm doing, and I give into to the why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's when I step out, and in that space I feel like I'm no longer just myself, and I'm no longer just doing this for myself, but for the lineage of women and people that have come before me and couldn't do this for me. So I really feel immersed in that space. And when I'm there, I know that it's not just me doing what I'm doing, but there's a force that's behind me. So I guess the vulnerability is the strength that I know I will not have unless I immerse myself in this moment and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I'm going to be absolutely bare with it. And that's when I occupy that body that I guess doesn't even belong to me, so to say.
Yes, it's your go-to place. And it's interesting because we've all got those different go-to places where we become different aspects of ourselves. And sometimes we have to be in a certain place for that person or for that character to come through. And that's what I'm sensing about you, with all the different creative aspects that you are. And I was listening to some of your music, and I liked Lace, because there's a depth to when you sing. There's a moodiness, there's a soul rendering when you sing. And then I was listening to, now I'm going to try and pronounce this. You have to. It's Khawuleza.
Khawuleza.
I wasn't going to try. And then there was another one called Nzwakazi.
Yes, Nzwakazi.
Okay, right. I'm glad I did try that. And they're all slightly different, but there's a thread of singing from the soul. There's a real soul. There's a real, especially with Lace, there's this, you can feel the love and the resonance of love and the everything of love. Going back to what you said, that was really poignant. I'm like, dang, she deep, man, she deep.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you're obviously speaking about your experiences and what you would like and all those wonderful things. So, how has your music touched others who are on a similar journey to you? How has it made them feel accepted, made them feel recognized, made them feel acknowledged, made them feel loved? What's been the response around that?
I think it's really been overwhelming to hear just how a lot of people have been messaging me, some calling me and saying, we didn't even realize we needed this until we heard it. A lot of the messages I've been getting are messages of people saying to me, thank you for your affirming music. Especially, I'm really glad you mentioned these 3 songs, because these are like 3 power songs, so to say. Because Lace is very similar to Nzwakazi, and Nzwakazi is a protest song. It's a love song, but it's also a protest song. And essentially it means even if the world is against our love and is against everything that we live by, I'm going to continue loving you. I'm going to continue being the person that I am to you. So hearing people call and text and say, thank you for this song. Thank you for Injongo, because even in Injongo is a song about intentions. And throughout this EP, I really want to echo the sentiment of love and how intentional I am with being a person of love and being a person who carries and leads with love. So it's just been really, really heartwarming to hear people saying, we feel the love with which you wrote this EP. We feel it and we really resonate with it, because also in the production part of it, I was really insisting on, I want to bring this back home to the roots, which is the church and the sounds of the church, the call and response. Because for me, that's how it started for me. That's how we sang from the get-go. So just hearing people say, look, we resonate with this, we can hear where you're coming with this, because this is how we grew up too. The church is somewhere in there. It's really heartwarming, and like it makes me shiver most of the time. And I'm like, whoa, are you serious? But yeah, it's been really, 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 really heartwarming to see and to just feel the love that people are feeling and give it back to me. So it's incredible.
But what you're doing is almost like you're opening up a portal for that love. Because, when I hear you, what I'm hearing also is this real honoring in your relationships. And I've had this conversation with so many people about relationships now. There doesn't seem to be the honoring. But once you honor something, then you can have the most magical of experiences. And that's what defines poor relationships, whatever poor is, to good, solid, strong relationships, because you're honoring being with this significant other and you're walking that road together. And yeah, it's powerful, incredibly powerful. And so Fame is coming up at the end of August in South Africa. I'm going to be there. And what can we expect from you at this event, Bonga?
Okay, so I know for sure that I will be performing, but in this one, there's this EP of mine, this album that's already out, and it's titled New Faces to Old Problems. So I will be performing a couple of songs from that, but also I'm working on a new and incredibly special body of work, and it's titled James the Narrative. And it's essentially a compilation of stories, obviously music, a compilation of stories of growing up as a queer child, navigating my life, navigating spirituality, navigating life in general in a world where I feel like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here, and everything that I exist as does not belong here. So that's the message behind this coming body of work. So I'll be sharing a few songs from that as well. But yeah, you can expect nothing but the best of the best entertainment, which is usually what I deliver.
Excellent, excellent. And one other question. So I know I said I'm going to wind down soon, but you said, when did you realize you were queer? Because you said at a very young age. How young was young?
I think even before I knew what on earth it is to be queer. I grew up knowing I'm a bit odd. I used to be called a tomboy from like the age of 6, and I'd be like, what do you guys mean? What are you talking about? Yeah. And with the name James, the reason why I use the name James, the narrative for this coming album, is that I used to be teased and be called James because I looked like a boy and I exuded this boy energy. So it was a name that a lot of people teased me by until I was like, I actually like James. It's working for me. So I'm going to keep it. So it's basically a coming back to self and acknowledging this entire journey. So I think I've known for a long time. I just didn't know what it was that felt so odd. Yeah, I get that. I mean, when I was growing up, I was always seen as an outsider and different because of, I would say, my spiritual, the spiritual aspect of who I was. Be able to see, sense, be beyond. I've been like that from a child. And people have always said, oh, there was always something different about you. I didn't know what that difference was until people put a label on what it was, because I was just me. And I was always ostracized, from primary school through to secondary school, through to high school, always ostracized because people fear your energy. I'm like, well, what does that mean? But, I've grown into myself and I'm comfortable. If I have to roam on my own, I'm fine, actually. I've got a few people that I trust that are around. I'm fine because there's a peace in that space and there's freedom. There's a freedom. So I really commemorate you, young lady. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in a couple of months. And I just like to, is there anything else you'd like to say that you can say to the audience, as part of your wider message in terms of who you are? Yeah, I guess what I could say in closing is that with all my experience and with everything that I've done as a person and as an artist, I could definitely say I've been my best investment, and I could give that to anybody else. Being true to yourself is the greatest gift you could ever give yourself, and you are your best investment and probably your most consistent. So I think personally, I say I'm worth it, and I think the next person is definitely worth it if they believe that they are. So invest in you, invest in what you say you are, and invest in the person that you want to become. Excellent. And I think we'll be good. We'll be pretty good.
Excellent. I feel like, doing live long and prosper. Oh wow. No, this has been short and sweet, but it's been power packed. And I just love the message, especially when you speak about love. And this is what love is about. What Bonga is talking about, what she exudes, because she's not just speaking it, she is it. She's become it. She's living it. She's in it. It's not just words. And that's what puts you apart from a lot of people who talk about love. And they just can't exude it because they're not in that place, and no judgment. But it's refreshing. It's refreshing to speak to you around this stuff. So I'd like to say thank you so much for joining me on the Sofa with Esther, South Africa, and wishing you all the best with all your other endeavors. Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was great. This is absolutely great. I appreciate it.
Woo!
Right.
take you out there.
Okay, right, let's start. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to On the Sofa with yours truly, Esther Austin. On the Sofa, South Africa, I should say. And with me, I have a gentleman, Thulani, and he's got an incredible story. He's doing incredible things in the community. He's doing incredible things in the music industry. He's breaking down doors, creating pathways for those around him, and that's really commendable. So welcome, Thulani.
Thanks for having me, Esther, and welcome. Hello to your viewers as well.
Thank you, thank you. So Thulani, and am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, but actually, that's my real name, Thulani. So
Thulani.
it's kind of like with the two, yeah, and that actually means to be quiet in Xhosa, which is my original language.
Okay, Thulani, that's nice. I've learned something already. Right, Thulani. I like to ask my guests in a nutshell, in a peanut shell, or a coconut shell, who is Thulani?
Okay, so Thulani is from Langa in Cape Town, which is one of townships in Cape Town, and townships are kind of like known as the disadvantaged communities in the city of Cape Town in South Africa. And my surname is Headman, and most of the people now call me DJ Foster because I'm a music producer and a DJ as well. Before social entrepreneur, obviously, and I'm 35 years old.
Okay.
And I come from a musical background family, my father being a musician and my uncles as well are known as the Nkani brothers, the jazz pioneers in Cape Town.
Oh, wow. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And so how would you describe your music? What genre would you say your music falls under?
Well, I'm quite a versatile music producer. So I started back in the days, as much as I mentioned that I was influenced by jazz music because of my siblings or my father and my uncles being jazz pioneers. However, in the late 90s, as a youngster in South Africa, that started changing because we were introduced into this new generation music, which was Kwaito music. I'm not aware if you are familiar with the South African history of music, but prior 1994, most of the music was kind of like inspired of fighting the apartheid times, which was the
Yes.
oppression times. And then late in 1995, heading to 1996, there was this new genre which was formed, which was post-apartheid, and which was kind of like talking to us as the youth, and it was kind of like a music that we were using to celebrate or to kind of like carry on, post-apartheid. And I kind of like slightly started shifting and moving towards that style, and that's when I also started producing my own music. But back then, due to lack of resources, I was using like my father's synthesizers to produce such music. And then obviously later in the early 2000s, we were then introduced to house music, which I slowly shifted to that. And I mean, currently, I'm sure you might be familiar with this name. We've got the sound that's kind of like hitting the world by storm, which is called Amapiano, which also kind of like generates
Yes.
from the,
I
which
discovered
also
that a few
kind
months ago, and I've had so many things on rewind. It's like, what? You know,
of Yeah. So basically, Amapiano is actually influenced by basically what I just told you now, originating from the Kwaito, but also kind of like inspired by a house music. Yeah.
excellent, excellent. But also your music and your music production, there's more to it, isn't there? Because you are part of the Bridges for Music Academy. Now, what is your role? What exactly is your role there? And you work a lot with young people you work with underserved and underrepresented communities. Is that correct?
Yes. So basically, I'm one of the co-founding members of Bridges for Music, and I'm on my day-to-day. I'm operations manager at the academy, which is a school, our school, which is based here in Langa. And basically, how Bridges for Music was formed. So, I mean, as a young teenager coming from a disadvantaged community, I got caught up in the wrong side of things as a youngster, and ended up in prison. And while I was in prison, I kind of like served some time. And meanwhile, I was there. That was the time that I kind of like reflected, to my life. And I've actually Yeah, and then I made a promise to myself that I wanted to be the role model that I never had, because in
Excellent.
our communities we had lack of role models. Our role models were actually the wrong people. So ever since I got released about 17 to 20 years ago, I then decided to actually start my own company, which was O21 Records. And the purpose of this company was to actually create a record label, which was going to be a platform for Cape-Townians, especially to kind of like be able to create their own music and be able to have a platform that would help them. But to first, and then we started that company, O21 Records, in 2005. And then from there, we released music, which was well appreciated in South Africa. And then just to fast track to 2012, I then met a friend of mine called Valentino, who was originally from Spain and had been managing Amnesia in Ibiza. And he had came down on his sabbatical leave. And I mean, just after being introduced with Valentino, we kind of like shared a common goal. And our goal was to actually try and assist, guys or young talents coming from disadvantaged communities. And then that's when Bridges for Music was kind of like formed, with an idea of bringing world-renowned producers, DJs. I mean, we started with Black Coffee, Richie Horton, Skrillex, we had Ed Sheeran, we had Bonobo.
Oh, wow.
However, as we were hosting these workshops, so the idea was to host these workshops and get the guys to actually share their stories to inspire the youth from our communities. However, as we were hosting the workshops, we kind of like saw there was something missing, because we were hosting the workshops, we filled them with expensive gear that you would get, like, in a normal festival or scene. However, after the workshop, we would then dismantle all the equipment and then they would be taken away. So it was kind of like showing a poor kid lottery money and going away with it. It's kind of like you're sparking the interest to the young kids, showing them all of these equipments, getting them to touch it, and then after that you leave with them. And we felt that was wrong, and that's where the idea of us having our own school, which was going to be equipped with this equipment, came about. And this was around 2013. And in 2014, we then started fundraising. And we started building around 2016 and opened our doors in 2019.
Excellent, excellent. It's interesting because I was going to ask you, how did COVID affect that process? Because you're building something for these young people and it's giving them hope, and then all of a sudden it has to come to a standstill as well. So how did you manage that process?
Well, it was quite a difficult one, honestly, because early 2020 we had to cut out a class that was already operational, and this didn't kind of like sit well with us, but obviously we had to follow the rules and the requirements, the government requirements. However, it was affecting us because, I mean, in our townships, or should I say in our communities, we are looking at an average rate of 8 to 10 people, or even less, if fortunate, of family households, living in one household. And I'm not talking about a huge house, I'm talking like a 2-bedroom. And now also, when we had opened our space, it came to be a second home for most of our students. And also, like, with tech ready, with internet connections, with the latest Apple machines, available. Now our students were kind of like the doors were shut down for them. And it was really quite a huge problem. However, late in 2020, I think in October, we then decided to kind of like start a soft open, where we kind of like allowed our students to come back and kind of like utilize the space, for them to use the internet and also share like the circles. Because one of the most important things that we focus in at the Bridges Academy is mindfulness. One of our programs, the Music MBA, is actually built around those three pillars, which first, one of them is music production. The second one is entrepreneurship. And then the third one is mindfulness. I mean, we are dealing with kids that are coming from, it should be like experience trauma or substance abuse. And we feel that it's very important for us to kind of like first look at the mental well-being before allowing them to be able to take more knowledge or to even pursue their talents.
Excellent, excellent. That's a fantastic foundation, because it's all about mindset. If your mindset isn't right, then you can't really build on that. So that's an excellent model. And I just want to ask you, Thulani, I love that, Thulani. You can make a song out of it, Thulani. Excuse me. When you were in prison for a while, how old were you then?
I think I was like just 15 years when I got sentenced for the first time. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so when did you? So at what age did you have this epiphany that you needed to change, that you wanted to change something when you came out? Because you said it was the first time, so you had obviously been in prison a few times, correct?
Yes, yes, it was not the first time I was arrested, but it was the first time that I got sentenced, obviously. And this was actually during while I was serving my time, for the first time. I think it was probably on the second year, of serving my sentence. And fortunately enough, while I was in prison, also I got introduced to a organization that was actually founded by Marius Bowden. And I mean, actually, Marius Bowden, I got reconnected with him after 15 years at Fame Africa
Wow.
last year when I was actually doing my talk, and he had came across a brochure that I was going to be doing the talks, and we've been looking for each other for quite some time.
Wow.
So Marius was running an organization called Prison Broadcasting Network, and within Posmo Prison is one of the biggest prisons here in South Africa. I mean, Nelson Mandela was actually in that prison as well. So he was running this organization, which actually had a fully equipped studio in it. And actually, that's where I also learned how to produce music on a computer, because previously I had been producing music on my father's synthesizers.
Brilliant, brilliant. Wow, I can imagine when you do your talks how powerful that would be. And just to have this epiphany at such a young age that, next time when you came out of jail, you were going to change your life around, and not just change your life around, but change,
Sure.
to inspire others. That's incredible. So just share a little bit what we can expect from you in the upcoming I think it's conference Fame on the 23rd, from the 23rd to the 23rd to the 27th of August 2022, because I'm going to be there as well. Okay, so what can we expect from Thulani at this incredible?
So basically, from me, you can expect a lot of our alumni, our students, our ex-students as well. They're going to be performing and doing some showcasings around Fame Africa. And obviously, I cannot mention some other stuff because it just needs to be finalized.
That's okay. I'll let you off.
Yeah. However, we are working on a few things, and one of the biggest things that we are currently working on as Bridges for Music is another fundraising initiative that's going to happen in October, which is a cycle actually that we do every year. This year we're starting from UK and cycling to Amsterdam. Okay. And that probably would happen in a course of 6 days. And that has been one of our greatest fundraising initiatives. And we're also looking to open another second campus in Johannesburg, as much as we would like to spread and create more academies such as these ones throughout the whole world.
Excellent. And lastly, but not leastly, and that's a new word, leastly, what is your message to the world, Thulani? What is your message to the world?
Well, I mean, my message is let's all be change makers. The little that you can do, it doesn't need finance. You don't need to be financially strong, but if you can have time to spend for someone that needs to be heard, let's do that. I mean, that alone can make a huge difference in someone's life. I would so love to see a lot of change in the world if we can all be change makers. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking to Thulani. And thank you so much for your time, but thank you so much for what you are doing, and also just for changing your life around. You will be the hero or Shiro. No, you can't be a Shiro. But you can be the hero to so many people. And, like you said, you didn't have someone to look up to, but now someone can look up to you. And then it can follow on as a legacy. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in August in South Africa.
Thanks a lot. Looking forward to seeing you as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.